So beautiful to be together always, and especially now at the beginning of this beautiful time of Holi. This very, very auspicious and very sacred and very beautiful time. And we always begin satsang by taking a question that comes in advance from our global family that's joining us from all over the world through this great gift of technology via YouTube or Facebook or however they're joining. They send in questions. And we begin usually with one from them and then open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. And the first question that's come in advance says, what is it that makes Holi such a special occasion other than throwing colors at people? So, Holi is a very, very sacred occasion for a lot of reasons. We'll talk a little bit about it tonight and talk a little bit more about it tomorrow night before we do the burning of Holika. But it symbolizes, first of all, there's this beautiful symbolism of the springtime that's now here, the flowers. In Vrindavan and other places, they don't play with colors, they play with flowers. So it's this beautiful symbolism of the springtime that has arrived, and the beautiful flowers and the beautiful colors. Ultimately, at its core, though, Holi is a holiday about that within us, which is holy, vanquishing, meaning beating, that within us, which is, we could say evil, for lack of a better word. I don't usually like to talk about evil because, of course, in Sanatan Dharma, we don't believe that people are evil. We believe in ignorance. When we become ignorant, when we lose the wisdom, when we forget who we are, well, then we start acting out of ignorance. When we act out of ignorance, it leads us to do things that one might term evil. So the acts become evil, but the person is just living in ignorance. So the story of Holi, this vanquishing of that which is evil by that which is good, is a beautiful, beautiful story of Prahlad. This embodiment of devotion and love. Now, of course, Prahlad's father, the king, believed that people should only worship him. We'll do the story in a very, very abbreviated version, but he believed that everyone should only worship him. In the kingdom, he only allowed worship of himself. Now suddenly he has this son who's a worshipper of the divine, a worshipper of God, of Narayan, Bhagwan Vishnu. And so, of course, in the beginning, the father tries to just convince his son to abandon this foolishness, as the father said, and to worship him, the king, his father. But when you are in love, and especially when you're in love with God, right? As we sing in the Arati every night, that beautiful stanza that Pujya Swamiji leads us in, Sabse unchi prem sagai. That highest form of love is love of God. So Prahlad was just in love with God. Then the father did everything he could. Sent teachers, tutors, everybody to try to teach Prahlad the ignorance of his ways and get him to just worship his father, the king. Didn't work. In fact, inevitably, Prahlad's devotion, his bhakti, was contagious. And he would have his teachers and his tutors just dancing in bhakti and love to God. So the king then decided that his son had to be killed. Now you think, my God, kill your own son? This is the tragedy of ego. This is the tragedy of ignorance, that it leads us into such dark places. I mean, this king, we won't go into all details, but he had done so much sadhana, so much tapasya, that he'd been given these boons from God. It's a different story about how he ends up dying. But just know that he was not an evil man. He was a worshipper of God, a sadhak, a doer of tapasya. And yet, his ego was so much, his ignorance was so much, that the threat to his own self as the only one worshipped led him to think that he could actually kill his son. And so he tried so many ways, nothing worked. Finally, his sister had a boon. And his sister's boon was that if she was wrapped in this shawl, fire could not touch her. And so the king and his sister hatched a plan. And the plan was that the sister, Holika, Prahlad's aunt, would grab Prahlad into her lap. Now she was wearing the shawl, but she would grab him onto her lap, separate from the shawl, into a fire. She would be saved, Prahlad would die. You imagine the extent to which ego and ignorance breeds evil within us and leads us to this kind of horrific acts. So they start unfolding the plan. She grabs Prahlad, she's got the shawl, they're in the fire. But what they had forgotten about was what we call the grace of God. God may give boons. You may do enough sadhana, enough meditation, enough recitation of a certain mantra, performance of a certain type of sadhana, a certain vidya, a certain tapas, and you get a boon. But God is obviously much more powerful than a boon, and they had forgotten about the grace and the power of God, who obviously was not going to let his innocent, young, pure, devoted bhakt suffer just due to their ego and ignorance. So as Holika brings Prahlad into her lap in the fire, suddenly this gust of wind arises and it pulls the shawl off of Holika onto Prahlad. She dies in the fire without her shawl, and Prahlad is saved. So as we burn this effigy of Holika tomorrow night, and then cover ourselves, each other, in these beautiful colors, it's a way of remembering for that divine purity, that devotion, within us to be the color that we are colored with. The oranges, the pinks, the greens, the blues, they'll wash off. The eco-friendly ones wash off really fast. Thoda sa gel and it's over. The chemical toxic ones take, a few days. You keep sabon laga diya kuch nahi hota, but eventually even those go away. But the color that we're really supposed to be coloring ourselves with is that color of love and devotion. Purity, like Prahlad. So as you celebrate, as you offer colors to others, as they color you, just allow that color to seep into your heart and color your heart with the color of devotion and love. So that's some of it. There, as I said, is more, which we'll share about it tomorrow night. Have to leave something for the evening of Holika Dahan before we go and have our sacred fire. For now, though, if anyone has any other questions, yes. Pehle aapko, fir aapko.
Mataji, the day before yesterday, you had told us about how you came here from America 25 years ago. I would like you to please tell us a little bit more about your spiritual growth in the last 25 years while you have been in Rishikesh. Thank you.
So the spiritual, as she said, a few days ago somebody asked about how I came, so I shared that journey of the Hollywood to Himalayas journey. But now she's asked, okay, so now you got here. Because the story a few days ago was just how I got here, how I stayed. So now she said, okay, so can you tell us some about your spiritual experiences since you've been here? There have been so many I can't even begin to tell you. Other than to say that every minute and every moment is a new opportunity. A new opportunity to let go and to surrender. I mean, the miracles. When you talk about spiritual experiences, I think of kind of two categories. One is the experience that actually happens within you. And those I've had, so many, they keep happening. In the beginning, I didn't know what to make of them. They didn't make any sense to me. I was having these just experiences, constant experiences of seeing God everywhere, seeing the divine everywhere. Whatever I looked, it didn't matter. Whatever I saw, whoever I saw, a child, a person, a tree, didn't matter. I was seeing God everywhere, crying at this beautiful presence of the divine that I had never known existed. Having experiences of awakening of energies, whether you talk about Kundalini, whether you talk about just grace, either way, but this awakening of energies that I had no idea. I used to lie in my bed at night worrying that if I lay on my back, my chest was just going to expand so much that it was literally going to burst through the roof of my room and kind of tear down the building, that the energy was just so much that it was bursting through my chest. And if I lay on my stomach, I was worried about how was I going to tell Pujya Swamiji the next day that I had burned a hole through the bed. here they're made out of wood. And I thought, I'm going to just burn through that wood. So it was a very physiological experience a lot. Literally energies in the body that I was feeling physically on so many levels. The experience of that presence of the divine. And then there's the other category of these spiritual experiences, which were the miracles that just kept happening over and over and over again to remind me, as Pujya Swamiji would say, about the presence of grace. Little things, little things. Just every day, something was happening. Unexpected, unimaginable. That was just this presence of grace. And it's all been about really surrendering to it. I think the core piece, if I had to sum up the spiritual experiences, if I start telling stories, we'll be here till it's time for Holi Eve tomorrow evening. But the underlying thread that runs through it all is that presence of the divine is everywhere. Whether it's doing things like gluing my feet to the floor of the ashram, so I quite literally could not leave when I thought I was going to leave. Whether it was filling me and flooding me with these energies, whether it was showing up as grace in so many ways, miracles in so many ways, the underlying thread was God is everywhere. God is everything. And God is here for you. And they may sound like the same, but they're very different. At least they've been in my experience. That everyone I was seeing, everything I was seeing, was the divine. It was amazing. When you look at someone, so like you're looking at me right now, okay? So in your visual field, since you're focused on me, I am what you could call foreground. Like I am the foreground thing in your visual field. I'm looking at this paper. This is my foreground. It's what I'm focused on. But then there's the background. Now, if you're focused on me and I stand up and start walking around, my background will change, but the foreground will not, right? You'll still keep seeing me in the foreground with a changing background. I'm looking at this, but if I keep doing this, well, the background is changing, right? But the foreground is the same. And that's what ended up happening to me with seeing the divine, was the divine became the foreground. The background kept changing. Looking at people over here, looking at trees over there, looking at steps over here, background kept changing. But the foreground, which was this divine presence, stayed the same. And in that experience, it made me realize that God was within me as well, which for me was huge. One of the greatest gifts of Sanatana Dharma, of the Hindu tradition, is this teaching that at your core is God. I know obviously people are people, humans are humans, we have egos everywhere, we have anger everywhere, there's problems between husbands and wives and parents and children and friends everywhere in the world. But what makes India so different is that in the midst of all of those problems, everyone at their core if they really go deep within, knows that who they are is divine. And that even though I may be shouting at you, you stupid, you worthless, you this, you that, and it may hurt your ego, it's not going to devastate your being, because you know. You were raised to believe, you were taught from early childhood, God is in you. And I think that makes an incredibly much more powerfully healthy society. So for me, learning that God was in me was incredibly powerful. I mean, you know this, you all know this. You know this, but I didn't know this. It wasn't what I was raised with. And to discover that God is in me, to feel it, was huge. And then to feel that God, to know that God is not only in me, not only everywhere, in everything, but that God is here for me. Meaning the universe is not working against you, it's working for you. A lot of us feel like we're fighting this constant battle. Battle in life, battle against the universe. And if you really look at it, what you'll realize is it's only a battle of your ego. You may have an idea of what you think you want, what you think you need, but ultimately, the universe is here, the divine universe is here to actually give you what you need, to support you, to hold you, to carry you. And if you're not getting what you think you need, then maybe you're seeing it wrong, right? I mean, the universe, I always say, isn't a vending machine. Most of us expect that God is that vending machine. You know, you walk up to a vending machine and you stick in your money and you push the button for a chocolate bar. Now, the machine doesn't care that you're 300 pounds and diabetic and your teeth are rotten and falling out. All it cares is you've put in your money, here's your chocolate bar. But in life, we put in our metaphoric money, we push the metaphoric button for chocolate bar, and instead we get a bag of carrots and celery, or we get a bottle of water. And we think, oh, the machine's broken. So then we go, we start praying in a different temple, we get a new guru, we chant a new mantra. And again we put in our money and we push the button, and again, bottle of water, bag of carrots. And we kick it, and we're furious. These machines are broken. And that's when we decide that, God isn't working for us. Or our guru is wrong, or our mandir is wrong, or our mantra is wrong. Because if it were right, I would get that chocolate. It's what I want. But the universe understands, not what you need. Not what's going to help you. And so, for me, that really deep spiritual experience was realizing, wow, whatever it is I'm experiencing, whatever it is that's happening, is happening for me. And do not get me wrong, it was not always fun. It's for me, and it's been always really, easy and glamorous and beautiful. And no, not at all. A lot of challenges. But that awareness that it's all happening in support of my growth, not in support of my ego. The universe is not here to butter up your ego. It's here to support your spiritual path. And so I think that's been the deepest learning. Sometime if we find ourselves together on a yatra with hours to spend, I'll share lots of the stories. But yes, wonderful. Yes. We'll take this as the last question for this evening.
Yeah, we have been waiting since long for this moment,
Ah.
and finally we are feeling blessed now. My question is related to meditation. So I have been meditating for quite some time, and the experience is truly divine, and I feel I'm connected in the morning and the late evening as well. But the kind of conditioning, as you mentioned, ignorance, it's about ignorance. But after gaining a lot of knowledge, reading books and attending satsangs, that ignorance part is to an extent taken care of. But what about the conditioning of the mind? During the day, the same, office, stress and
Sure.
anger, everything comes back. And that same old conditioning comes back.
The
how to manage?
sanskaras.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how to manage that with the meditation, which is going well, but throughout
Beautiful.
how to be in the flow throughout the day.
Beautiful. I understand. So our meditation in the morning, in the evenings is deep, beautiful, connected. But then during the day we get pulled into this world of samsara. We were talking last night about Maya. And as he said, it's conditioning. It's what we call sanskaras, impressions. This is natural. So first of all, do not feel badly. Do not yell at yourself for having this very natural reaction. You go out in the world impacts you. You go out and you get out of your conscious mind into your subconscious mind. And the subconscious has been programmed, conditioned. So we start on autopilot. What to do? This is where the practice of mindfulness is so powerful. Because you know the experience. You're not asking, how do I have the experience? You're having it. You have it in the morning. You have it at night. It's just a matter of reconnecting to it. By staying mindful, staying conscious, you will stay anchored in that experience. You lose it when you lose the consciousness, lose awareness, lose mindfulness. So just develop some beautiful practices during the day. For example, before you eat anything, before you drink anything, including water. Those are the easy ones. I know people who do it before they turn the ignition into the car, before they walk into a bathroom. Think about something you do a lot during the day. Before you pick up your phone. Connect a 3-second inner reconnection to something that you do every day, many times a day. And then it'll become automatic. Then it's just a reconnection. Pujya Swamiji always says when you build a house, in the beginning it takes a long time. You've got to lay all the electrical wires. But once they're laid, and you want to turn on a light, turn on a camera, turn on a fan, you just have to plug it in. You don't have to rewire the whole house. In the same way, your meditation time is that time of creating the wiring. And then during the day, just close your eyes for a few moments. A mantra before you eat, a mantra before you drink anything, a mantra before you walk into the bathroom, a mantra before you pick up your phone. I promise the sky will not fall. If you answer a call on the 6th ring instead of the 1st ring. Or God forbid you miss it and have to call them back 2 seconds later. Sky will not fall. We act like it will, we think it will, but it won't. So just hook a few seconds of something. A few deep breaths, a mantra, a chanting of Om, that just reconnects you. And then you'll come up with 20, 25, 30 things during the course of a day in which you're reconnecting. Even if you only do before you eat, before you drink, well, if you add every sip of water you take during the day, you've got your meals, you've got all your water, you're still 10, 15, 20 things in a day. Just reconnect, reconnect, reconnect. And you'll find that slowly it becomes easier. When you are walking, don't turn your walk from your office to the bathroom or your this room to that room or the car to the office. Don't turn that into a multitasking experience. Most of us are like, oh, okay, I'm walking, let me check my email. First of all, it's really dangerous. That's how you trip and fall and crack your head open, or trip somebody else and crack their head open. But you also end up losing a beautiful opportunity for just mindfulness. Just walk mindfully. Feel your feet upon the earth. Allow your breath to connect with each step, right and left. You can chant Om Brahm with every step, or Soham. Something that works nicely with right, left, right, left. Just reconnect you. So that, you start to park your car purposefully a few blocks away rather than right in front. So you have a few extra minutes of walking meditation before you enter the office or the shopping center or the restaurant where you're meeting friends. As you eat, don't use it as an opportunity to watch TV or to be on your phone. As you eat, allow yourself to be mindful and aware. So you'll find that with making just a few really small changes, nothing that requires hours out of your busy day, you'll be able to stay very deeply connected throughout the day. Yes. Okay. Yes. Sure.
Just before few days, I got a voice mail.
1 second, a mic is coming to you. That's okay.
Again, namaste everyone. So, just before few days, I got a voice message on Instagram. Ma'am was wishing me a very happy birthday in advance. And today is for 16th of March, and today is 16th of March, and it's my birthday today. I'm here, and I'm very glad that I'm here. And thank you so much. Whatever you are doing great. You are an environmentalist. Whatever you are doing for Mother Nature, it's just adorable. And we youngsters are learning so much from you. And thank you so much for your wishes. And today I'm here. It's 16th of March. You can wish me happy birthday. It would be an honor for me. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Well, before we leave, we'll have a singing of happy birthday. But it's beautiful to hear. It's God's grace, of course. And yet, there's a very special place in my heart for youth. It's easier. The sanskaras are not quite so deep. The impressions are not quite so deep. The conditioning is not quite so deep. There tends to be a beautiful willingness. And it's so tragic. Sometimes we'll have people come in and they say, my God, what is wrong with the youth of today? I always say, there is nothing wrong with the youth of today. The youth of today are so connected, inspired. The only thing wrong with the youth of today is they have become so smart that they don't buy the BS that the youth of past generations might have bought from their elders. And so the youth of today are the ones saying things like, why? Now, why is not an insult. But most of us, if we tell a youth something to do something, and they say why, we feel insulted. क्या समझते आप अपने आप को? अरे इसलिए क्योंकि मैंने कहा? We feel like they are being very rude by asking why. But they're not. The insult is to our own ego because we don't actually have the answer. And if you are honest and open enough, you'll realize you're only insulted when someone asks why if you don't have the answer. If you have the answer, you'll very happily share it with them. You don't have the answer, then you're like, tum kaun ho? Don't ask me anything. So rude you are. There's a very special, Pujya Swamiji calls it a chip. He says they've been born with a chip in them. There's a very special vision and connection that the youth today have. They're connected to something deeper than just that which they're being indoctrinated with. They're thinking on their own, they're feeling on their own, they're intuiting on their own, they're innovating on their own, they're learning on their own. And of course, yeah, it can be dangerous. Without proper guidance and sanskaras and direction, they could end up down, that metaphoric rabbit hole. You have no idea where you end up if you start watching a few of the wrong YouTube videos, then what they start showing you. But just because something's fragile doesn't mean it's a problem. It's just fragile. That openness is simply fragile. Because we need to make sure that it's open to that which is deep and real and connected. So I love working with the youth because they'll be the first to say why. Adults are like, bilkul, 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 and they understand, they don't understand, they're listening, they're not listening. It doesn't matter. We're trained to just kind of be polite. Wow, kya baat hai, bilkul sahi baat hai. 5 minutes later, you say, what did she say? But the youth, if they don't understand, or there's something in there that they feel like doesn't really match with their experience, they're going to ask. And then what they're learning, they're taking so deep inside, in such a courageous way. It's so beautiful. For so many of us, we're scared. Scared to really look at new ways because it puts our whole life in jeopardy. Have I made the wrong decisions? Am I living in the wrong way? But the youth have this courage, and of course some of it is just they're younger, they've invested a lot fewer years in a particular way. But there's just such a beautiful courage to see new paths, to find new ways, to be open to new truths. So, yeah, wonderful. And I'm so glad that impact is there with you and with the rest of the youth. And what is your name?
My name is Harshit.
Harshit. Beautiful. So, before we end satsang, shall we have a round of happy birthday for Harshit? Wonderful. So all together, Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Harshit. Happy birthday to you. Now we have a little satsang tradition. So that was English. What other languages do we have that we could sing happy birthday in? Who speaks another language that you know happy birthday in? Anna, Portuguese. Give this woman a mic.
Parabéns pra você nessa data querida, muitas felicidades, muitos anos de vida.
Beautiful. Any other languages? Yeah, okay.
हिंदी तो सबको आएगी तो सब साथ में बोलेंगे. बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिन ये आए, तुम ही जो हजारों साल है ये हमारी आरज़ू. जन्मदिन मुबारक हो, जन्मदिन मुबारक हो, जन्मदिन मुबारक हो, जन्मदिन मुबारक हो.
Beautiful. And yes, we had another hand over here.
Joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire, ainsi, joyeux anniversaire.
Any other languages? Karen.
It's Dutch.
Dutch.
Lang zal je leven, lang zal je leven, lang zal je leven in de gloria, in de gloria, in de gloria. Hippity hip hurrah, hippity hip hurrah, hippity hip hurrah.
Any other languages? Spanish. We'll end with Sanskrit.
Que los cumplas feliz, que los cumplas feliz, que los cumplas, que los cumplas, que los cumplas feliz.
Sanskrit se pele. Any other languages here? Okay. Punjabi. Okay, Sanskrit se pele, Punjabi. Done.
जन्मदिन दियां बहुत बहुत बधाइयाँ, जन्मदिन दियां बहुत बहुत बधाइयाँ.
Ab, last, Sanskrit.
सुदिनं सुदिनं जन्मदिनं तव भवतु मङ्गलं जन्मदिनं तव सुदिनं सुदिनं जन्मदिनं तव भवतु मङ्गलं जन्मदिनं तव विजयी भव सर्वत्र सर्वदा विजयी भव सर्वत्र सर्वदा भवतु मङ्गलं जन्मदिनं तव सुदिनं सुदिनं जन्मदिनं तव भवतु मङ्गलं जन्मदिनं तव भवतु मङ्गलं जन्मदिनं तव भवतु मङ्गलं जन्मदिनं तव.
Beautiful. Happy birthday. Have a beautiful, beautiful evening, everyone. As I mentioned last night, we have a special holy celebration tomorrow. It's at 5 o'clock, not in the back garden, but rather on our Shankar Bhagwan Ganga Ghat at 5 o'clock. It begins with a special yoga program. We'll do yoga together. Then we will play with eco-friendly, non-toxic, all-natural holy colors. Then we will have our sacred arti, satsang, and then the holika burning. We also have a special holy yoga class tomorrow morning. What time is that? 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. We have yoga every day here, but tomorrow is special because it's also on the Shankar Bhagwan Ghat in the middle of Ganga. So what could be more beautiful than doing yoga at the feet of Shankar Bhagwan in the middle of Mother Ganga? So don't worry if you've never done it. If you're an advanced student or a brand new beginner, it doesn't matter. Show up at 7 o'clock on the banks of Ganga, followed of course by our daily 8:30 sacred yagna, and then the 5 o'clock in the evening program. So a full special day tomorrow, and so much love to you all.